What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another panel show. We've got a star-studded guests today. We've got HG from the Cheese Room, the voice of reason. How you doing, HG? Oh, we can't hear you. Are you on mute or is it our end?
No, God.
Not this again.
1 sec. We unplugged. No, we're not. We're not unplugged. Can't hear brains either. Oh, okay. 1 sec. Put the Can the comments hear them? Commenters, let me know if you can hear HG and brains when they're talking. I want to see if they can.
Full start here at We Are Tottenham TV. They can hear us perfectly, I believe.
No,
yeah,
they can't hear them. They can't hear them.
The viewers can't hear the guests
All right,
either.
Put the thumbnail back on quickly, I think.
That's all you need to do pretty much. Alright, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, guys. I don't know if they can still hear me, but we're going.
No, they can't hear you.
They can't hear me. Okay.
Now we can hear
Oh,
you.
they can hear you.
Oh, they can. They can.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to be going live now. Pretty
Everyone
much.
can hear you.
Okay.
Everyone. Okay. Great. Hi, guys.
My mom can hear you, for Christ's sake.
Go on. All right, take 23 of the panel. What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another panel show for you guys. We've got returning guests, HG from the Spurs Cheese Room podcast. How you doing, HG? The voice of reason, I called him before, and here he is. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's been a good week. Spurs are back. Tomorrow's my birthday. Life is good. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, life is good. I'm not going to complain. And we've got the voice of carnage here, Brains McLeod. How you doing, Brains?
I was going to go for the voice of the bipolar maniacs, but fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to start off talking about the potential winger problems Spurs have with Sonny out on the left. Me personally, not too sure if he's suited to that role. Kulusevski, I mean, he hasn't really found form since the back end of the season where he first joined us under Antonio Conte. HG, do you think that Spurs have a winger problem at the moment?
Well, I think we'd be better if we played wingers who were playing on their natural side. I mean, traditional wingers, the kind of wingers that I grew up with, even if you take Son in the Brentford game, I feel like he was better actually going down the outside the few times he did. So, yeah, I think we have a winger problem. Frankly, I think it's too narrow and we're causing ourselves issues.
The wingers we do have, HG. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, we're back. The wingers we do have. Do you feel like they're like Ange has this kind of a fairly specific way his wingers want to play in terms of more traditional wingers, very much stay out wide, take people on, beat players, create chances. When I'm looking at Son specifically, do you think we have an awkward problem because we've just made him captain? Obviously, look, he's one of our best players for sure. He's a world-class player. But in terms of him at this stage of his career, at 31 years of age, and what he's really good at, Do you think that kind of role gets the best out of him?
More than last season's role got the best out of him. I mean, we watched him try manfully and struggle under Conte, but I think he's got it within him. It may not be his natural game, it may not be the best thing for him, but I definitely think that it's something that he can do. And he needs to try harder, I guess, to do that.
Yeah. And Brains, how are you feeling on this one?
That's one of those problems in football that's kind of like it's a red herring. You know, in football, in your early days when you get trained, and a lot of the trying to adapt and figure out and learn is all there. Everything from there is how much you can adapt like naturally. Trying harder is a problem. If a player has to try harder, it's like, why? You know, so there's you're coming to a later stage of your career. Look at Ronaldo. He adapts. He goes into the center because like just being a greedy goal guy who's just going to terrorize defenders and get into the right place at the right time. That's easier than getting the ball short at deep. Defenders on you, people on the wing trying to break you down, hack you down, run the whole wing, cut inside, hit the top corner. That's magic. That's what Son was incredible at. But then once that starts to get chipped away at, you can't just try harder to be good at that again. That is just kind of slowly going, so he has to adapt. Like in this scenario we have here, it is a problem if you want to view it like that, but it's a very solvable adaptation. You have a inverted winger one side who's brilliant with his left foot, and you have a two-footed player who really wants to cut in. They both want to one step over, then move the ball onto their hip foot, and defenders can just stop that all day long. You can get narrow, you can stop that cross. But flip them over, and you have Son, who can still cut in if needed on his left foot, but he's a right footer. He can go down, cut back. That's what Ange wants. You put Kulusevski on the left side, he's really good with his left foot. He can get to the byline, and all of a sudden they become normal wingers. And also, like that stuff that Kulusevski loves to do, dragging it in, but still being left-centric with his foot to get to the byline and then tap back with his left. He could have way more time having fun on the left doing that stuff where he's naturally going to go, and he'll be able to find people so much better with his left foot. So it's all adaptable and solvable. It's also a big problem because you have a out of form player in the center who, let's be honest, none of us are really sure that Richarlison can absolutely do that job. But if Richarlison is going to play, you cannot have Sonny be the left winger and maybe not even Kulu. Perisic has to be the guy. If Richie is going to go through the center, which is one problem, then I'm sorry, but you have to have Perisic, because Perisic is the only player who, even though you can see the step overs coming and he's just going to go on his, he at least can go step, bang, right foot, perfect on the sixpence cross, or he can go left foot, bang, bang, push it. He's got a bigger sprawl, bang, left foot cross perfectly onto heads. But the heads have got to be people who are capable of getting up, and that's the one thing that I can see Richarlison is kind of better than any in the front, anyone we've got at just now. He's good with the head. So there's a solution there. It's like just put the circles into round holes and the squares into boxes, and you kind of can solve things, But if we're going to do this thing where, the manager's always going to be 5 or 6 months behind the general consensus of the fans, because we have all this knowledge. We've seen it. We've seen where it's going. The manager's come in, and he's going to have to give Richarlison a go. He's going to have to keep the legend that is Son on his favourite side. He's going to have to do these things because he doesn't want to ruin players' confidence. He doesn't want to take them out of, I don't think you're doing my system. So the third thing of how it fixes is either Ange makes the decision, either he changes his system to adapt players, which are we going to see him do that for the first time ever because he's going to feel unconfident that he's finally hit the Premier League? He's going to go, all right, you guys are bigger names than me. I'm going to change to you. Or he just changes them to actually fit his system. And the surprising thing was when he did it in preseason, he didn't do it a lot, but when he did do it in preseason, magic. So for the life of me, don't know why he's just not putting the right pegs in the right holes right now.
So you feel that you're comfortable with the winger options going into this season then?
Obviously you could just keep throwing money at this problem, but we don't have money, and what we need to spend on is just way more important. So
that's what they want you to think, Brains.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've always got money, but whether we have money to spend on footballers is another thing.
Look, I think that when it comes to the options, like in a perfect world, if everyone's fit, Perisic is down the left, Brian Hill is down the left, probably Pedro Porro would become one of those right wing options where you're not asking him to do any defending. We know that's not his strong suit. You get him down that right hand side, and Kulusevski at some point might become an 8.
I think
Skip
Kulusevski would be a great. Yeah, I think Kulusevski would be a way better 8 than Skip. I think Kulusevski would be brilliant in there.
So it's just interesting to see that like, we do have options. Like obviously, I would love there to be this amazing young right winger who would take people on, like I saw Kanchelskis do for Man United in the 90s. Those things don't seem to exist. All the wingers like to play inverted now. You get your right-footed players down the left and your left-footed players down the right. And Kulusevski, as Brain said, like he can go around the outside, but I feel like he needs lots of space to do that. He doesn't have pace to do it in 5-6 yards. He needs almost to get some momentum going. And maybe the way Spurs are playing won't allow him to do that. So I definitely think there are options, but I do think that if we're looking for one, we have to find an old school winger because, if Porro's not it, then that's where we should be going.
What's Paul Walsh and Darren Anderton doing right now?
Get Darren. Well, I mean, Darren Anderton's probably still on the hospital bed at Hotspur Way, just waiting for his treatment. To be honest, but look, I'm not so sure about Kulusevski. I mean, I rate him as a player, and I think he's got such good attributes, but we haven't seen some consistent form from him for a while now. And is that worrying you, HG?
Not particularly, because he didn't really get like. Maybe when Conte was sacked, he played a few more games towards the end of last season, but there was a long time when he was injured and Richarlison was picked ahead of him, out of position. So it's weird. Yes, we've not seen the Kulusevski that we saw when he first signed, when he came in and looked the business very quickly. But things are a bit different and things have changed. And I don't believe it's a permanent problem. I don't believe that was an amazing run of form that we'll never see again. It's just about getting him to do what he's best at doing. The question is really, in this system, what will he be best at doing? We've got lots of 8s, and I think he said himself that he sees himself as the number 10, and that he's really only played out there because that's where he got played by Parma, that's where he went to Juventus to play, and he's done it for Spurs. But maybe in his head, he wants to be more central. He wants to play the passes that we expect Maddison to now do. So, like, he's clearly a very good and very intelligent player, but as is Son. But if they're not doing what the team needs, then we have a problem.
Yeah. I think Kulusevski is more suited to playing that wide role in this system than Son is, in my opinion. A lot of people are kind of saying how bad Kulusevski played on Sunday, but I thought actually in the second half he was definitely growing into the game and actually having a lot more influence as the game went on, and actually started to beat Rico Henry on a few occasions, rather than the first half where Rico Henry had him on lockdown. I actually do think Kulusevski can do this role. I think he's got the skill set to do it, but I do have big question marks on Son. I think if we're talking about Son from like 5 years ago, I think we wouldn't have a problem him doing this role. But I think his game has adapted to being a lot more of a forward player than a wing kind of player. I think he is still decent in the wide areas, but the Son that we saw maybe, when Poch signed him, like a guy who's like a relentless runner, can really be a thorn in like a fullback side throughout the game and take him on relentlessly and use that pace. We haven't seen that Son. Not to say it's been a worse Son, it's just been a different Son for the last few years. And that is, and now I'm just worried that we're trying to fit him in a role which I don't think either gets the best out of him or he's suited to, in my opinion. And the begs a question. There was a question put to Ange a week ago, I think, that, could you see Son being our central striker? Do you think as the season goes on, potentially we might see that be the case? Or do you think do you think Son could play central striker in this Ange system? What do you reckon, Brains?
I think it's a matter of time right now, because how long can a manager you know, you feel for Richarlison. You know that he's going through a confidence thing. But this is his career. This is Ange's career. This is his chance, his big shot as well. How long can you sit and watch a person not moving right, not having their head on their shoulders in the right way, and then know that you've got a player who can hit with either foot, who can go in and out of the lines like Son can. Son's done that. Son's done that even when he was supposed to be on the left at times. He would just move in center, Kane would go deep, and Son would be the center forward. So, look, it's about being in the front line and being a striker. It's about partnerships. Same with Kulusevski. Kulusevski looked like just world class when he had Bentancur, someone he kind of knew, understood that he could put it and where he could get it. Together, they would just work together so well. So it's about creating these good time friendships and partnerships. It's early days for Ange, but I also think a big part of Ange's job is seeing, look, these players have had differences in managers, been moved all over the place. In Kulu's career, he's been moved so many different places. He has a place that he loves to play. I think you got to give him a chance to play there. I think you got to pull Sonny aside and go, look at how Ronaldo did it. Look at how Messi's doing it. People, you're getting to a certain point, just move into the center and use all of your skills and assets to get goals, and just and find positive ways to get them to do what he wants to do. I think it's just a matter of time before Sonny does that.
Do you think go on, HG? Yeah, go on.
Like, if you look at the goals, I mean, I'm sure you saw it too, but there was a TIFO video that they put on YouTube yesterday, and they talked about the type of chances that Celtic used to create when Ange was their manager. And it was all about getting to the byline and pulling it back. And it wasn't just the main striker that was scoring the goals, it was the eights. The eights were coming in later. And look, I think it's very key that Maddison is playing on the left-hand side, because I assumed that he would be on the right-hand side. Being right-footed, he'd be able to whip the balls in. But he's clearly been asked in every single preseason game and also the Brentford game to play down the left. I assume that means that when the ball is cut back towards him, he can use his stronger foot to find the target. So it feels as if, like, I agree, like the main striker in that Celtic side, there's nothing particularly strong or powerful about him in the way that Richarlison is built. He was a first-time finisher of either foot. And Son can basically concentrate on moving 5 or 6 yards away from the defenders, and hopefully the ball will find him. He shouldn't need to do much of the running that we saw previously, because if we're playing the high press, there won't be space for him to run into. So it's about finding that movement. And I do think he has it. It may not be his natural game. It may be something different. But if you're looking at the best fits for the system, then I think Perisic is a better fit out wide, and Son would therefore be a better fit in the middle.
100%.
As to when we see that, I don't blame Richarlison for it. Richarlison is who he is. But if you look at the system that we want to be doing, that we assume that Ange will put into just get going. I can't remember English now. It seems a better fit to have Son down the middle.
But if you're saying like Perisic is the best fit out wide and Sonny is the best fit in the middle, how does that work? Because, I mean, Perisic, obviously world-class deliveries into the box. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Sonny win a header before in his life. Surely, if you're playing Perisic, the best player to play down the middle would be Richarlison, because he is fairly good in the air.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, is that would be the best team. And I think if you like put a left-footed player as the wing, then you're not really looking for like you're saying, like his system with Hyogo. It's like you don't have to be big. The job of the centre forward, it becomes completely different. You're not being asked to take the ball with a defender against you, bash them back by 2 yards, hold the ball. You're not being asked to do that. If you watch Kyogo the last couple of seasons with Celtic, like, it isn't that job. He ghosts. He goes away. He hangs offside for a couple of seconds. So the defender's kind of like, fuck's he doing? You know, and then bang, he's like onside and he's making a perfect run. The defender just switches him off. So it's clever football as a striker that Son could do, because it requires less killing your body to sprint and hold and be involved in the fights. We don't want to see Son back to a defender trying to hold the ball up. He's not good at it. Richarlison's not good at it, but he's got a little bit more about him. His touch is just dreadful. So yeah, I think it is about putting the right person on the left wing who's going to get to the byline and then cut them back. But like HG was saying, sometimes those cutbacks are not crosses in the air. Sometimes they're at the back post. So the guy at the back post is coming in for an easy header. It's not always the center forward. The center forward's run ends up being a front post run. So it's not a big header. It's not being good with the head. So Perisic can do it. And then it's like Perisic's beautiful loopy balls to the back post. That's where the person comes in for the, Jota used to do that at Celtic. Just come at the back post, lovely little head and tap-ins, so that it works, and I can't, I just think it's a matter of time before we start seeing. The problem is we didn't get a big enough time with them all together in pre-season for them to try out all these things. So we're going to have to see it slowly happen in game, which is going to take a while.
If we do eventually move Son into the centre, and let's say before the window closes, we do sign a Gift Orban, for example, do you think that, let's say, for example, we do you think that all of a sudden could add a separate problem where all of a sudden we go from needing a striker to being overstocked in strikers? If Son is moved to the centre, Orban to striker, we have Valise there and Richarlison. I mean, is that a problem you just think HG like cross that bridge if we come to it, or is that a problem we should be thinking ahead of time of?
I mean, are we definitely looking to sign Gift Orban, or is this just newspaper talk?
Let's say we do sign him. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, but let's say
it's called a hypothetical, HG.
No, but the thing is, like, hypothetically, if you're going to sign Gift Orban, then to me that means Richarlison should go. I mean, that's a thing that maybe no one wants to consider because he's only been at the club for a year. But if we want to recreate that Celtic side or the type of sides that Ange has always had, Richarlison is your kind of your last 20-minute substitute if you're just trying to throw an extra striker on. He's not that guy. He could learn it in the same way that I think Son could learn it. I just think Son has a more natural game to play that central role than Richarlison does. Like, it's not as if Richarlison wasn't trying on Sunday, but in the same way that I think Skip was trying on Sunday, but it's not natural for him either to be asked what he was being asked to do, and he was unsure in many ways. Like, we've got time. I mean, as Brain said, Ange's only been in charge for 6 weeks. And for some of that, we've been traveling halfway around the world. So there will be opportunities to learn this outside of a game. But if we're looking to sign Gift Orban, then that to me says, okay, maybe we're thinking that Son is going to leave next season. Maybe it's a succession plan idea where we don't mind having an extra striker because, let's face it, whoever learns it best is going to play. And then next season we make a decision on that. But if Gift comes, you assume he has the kind of movement. You assume he's got this 2-footed goal-scoring ability that we seem to want from our central striker, and it wouldn't look good for Richarlison.
Yeah, I mean, how long do you reckon Richarlison gets without scoring goals in this front line, playing that number 9 role? How long do you think Ange will give it?
Yeah, I think it's a different time from like the Crouch at Liverpool days. I think it's just where strikers just can't. Not when you've got players who are better suited for a situation. I think you got to bring Orban in, or you go and just pay 30 million and get Kyogo, like the best player in the world that could do Ange's system. Like, in the Prem, you cannot. We've always been known as the team that, regardless of being absolutely dreadful at the back, we've had the best attacking 3. For season after season, we've been that team, and now we've got round pegs and square pegs and round holes, and an out of form striker who, honestly, I heard someone say the other day, who couldn't hit his boxer shorts with a fart. I mean, it's pretty damning. Like, it's horrible to see because you see it every now and then. I've been in those ruts. Like, it's horrible. He wants so hard to be better, to understand, to fit, to play the way that the team needs. But I just don't think that's going to end. Even when he gets a goal, I don't think he's naturally that guy who gets on a run and gets to the next game and then a hat-trick like Son is, or like Kane. I've never thought he's the right format type player to play in our system. And now when you've got a very specific system which requires a kind of darting in and out small player who's going to ghost it, he's not that guy either. So yeah, I think she's right. I don't see Richie ever kind of fit in. I would love us to move him along, but with Gift Orban, by the way, I think he comes off. He's a player who can come off either wing as well. He's both footed. I think you could have him and Son together, interchanging in and out, could wreck shop. They really could.
But Brains, sorry, go on, HG.
No, this is like in my head, a striker is not what Spurs need. right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be looking to go somewhere else with whatever money we've got. However, yeah, like if you're trying to move people in and out and you want to better what you can do, and you don't think Richarlison is going to be that guy. Like Richarlison likes the physical contact. He wants to play up against the centre backs. And in Ange's system, okay, that will help because you might push them back, but that's pretty much all you're going to be doing. For Ange's system to work, it's that everyone around that striker can do what they need to do, and the striker just puts it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And if Richarlison ends up being that guy, brilliant. I mean, really, that's what we all want. We've got him. He's clearly a good player, and he never got the chance last season to play centrally, which he would have looked better and score more goals had he done that. So it's just a case of, like, if I'm looking to build a best 11 based on the players we have, Richarlison isn't in it. He's on the bench. He's going to come on and cause havoc if you need a goal, but he's not going to start. And Ange is going to be looking to bring people in who will start, who will be part of his best team. Maybe not this season, but certainly going forward.
Do you not think that maybe we are being a bit too hasty on Richarlison? Because like you said, he wasn't hardly played through the centre last year. When he was played out wide, it was just bit part roles in the game, in the team, out the team, in the team, out the team. We haven't really seen him have an extended period of time as the number 9. And I think like he's much more suited as a number 9 in an Ange system than he was in any sort of system that Conte played him in last season. So do you not think that we just need to be a bit more patient with him?
I said, I'm only going to get rid of him if we're going to sign another striker.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't blame him for any of this in the same way that I don't blame Porro. If Porro plays as an inverted fullback and looks bad, I don't necessarily blame him for that. We bought players to do certain roles. I understand why we bought Richarlison last summer, but we used him terribly. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. How are we going to use... It's not as if we don't have players. We've got a whole bunch of players to pick from who will fit this system, but maybe there's this, we've paid a lot of money for him, we should give him a go as the number 9. Brilliant. Like if Spurs are winning and he's not scoring, I don't really care, right? It's all about the team and the result. If we're scoring goals and he's not really involved, then the future in me say, well, I want to see Valise get a go. I want to see Son get a go. Like someone else who I think could do something different to improve the output. But it's sad that these players are having to adapt to a system, but there's a number of players in our team who are adapting to roles that they've never done before, and Richarlison is no different.
HG, regardless of like whether we sign a forward player or not, looking at our forward options as of now, let's say we don't sign another one, are you happy with those forward options to go into the season? Do you look at that and think that's, Andrew's got a lot to work with there? Or do you think, compared to our rivals, we're still severely lacking?
I think I would be okay. I mean, I haven't even mentioned Solomon, who's a pretty good signing and also can go down the outside. So there are players that even I still forget exist, right? Like I've got my brain on Brian Hill being this guy down the left for us long term because I think it would really work. But I don't think about Solomon. So I do think we've got options. But if Gift Orban is the new best thing, and Spurs are saying, well, now's the chance. If we don't get him now, he'll cost us double next time around, unless he fails. And if he fails at his next club, we won't want him anyway. So you've got to make those decisions. I don't think there are clubs out there who are willing to spend big money on signing Richarlison. If they are, they're in the Premier League. And so it would be an awkward move to make. But given the options we have, I think we've got players who can go down the outside. I think we've got players who can work in the middle. And I think Spurs can score goals. I really do.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on and let's talk about this Harry Kane money. Got an influx of £100 million come into the club. Brains, how would you spend that Harry Kane money?
So for me, I would go and get Orban right now. Like when we had identified him, and apparently like we've actually been looking at him for a while. But when we identified him, like the start of this window to actually bring him in, if we had got him, he would have been 15 million. He's now going to be 25, and it's only going to keep going up. Like, and for a guy like that, you have to not do that silly thing people do where they're like, oh, but look at the league it's in. You have to understand Nigerian players, and when they go into European leagues, how they're so like eager to like impress the managers. This guy's manager describes him as a phenomenon, and he's saying like wherever he goes, he's a phenomenon. He'll leave us, he's still going to be a phenomenon. He's 21 and he scores more than a goal a game. You know, like it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you understand your role and you have his attributes, which is speed, strength, like I don't know how many times he bashes guys off the ball to make his dribbles work. He's not just a dribbler, he's a strong upper shoulder guy. So I don't think he kind of reminds me a bit of like a Drogba in the way that he uses his upper body. He's got brilliant feet. I say you go and do that deal right now. And then for me, like you focus on getting everyone else out and then get a center back in on the deadline day, whatever, you know, Tosin. Obviously, I would love to, if you have the Harry Kane money and we actually have that money and that isn't just already gone into the books and we're even, you know, if you have that money, I would go and get Arbin right now. And then I'd go and pick up, obviously the dream would be Tapsoba, but Tosin or Sure, either one of them, just one great center back would be fine. I think Sure would be a really good shout because of the link with him and Van de Ven, two huge Dutch center backs together would be great. And then I genuinely think we made a massive mistake now in retrospect with Vicario. Willing to give him time, but my gut feeling is it was a mistake. So I would take whatever money was left and go get an incredible goalkeeper. I'd go and try.
Can you imagine what Vicario would think if we just go and get another goalkeeper now? We've literally just brought him in, told him he's going to be our number one for the season. And after one game, you're telling him, nah, you're not good enough.
We got done again by this whole best goalkeeper in Serie A. Just made the Italian team. Like, Italy's been going through trouble, right? They've not been a great team for a while. Like their Serie A goalkeepers, for whatever reason, they come to us and they just don't look good. So, I mean, I want the kid to have his fair share and his fair shot. And, you know, he is a good shot stopper, make no doubts about it. But even his shot stopping, he pushes the ball into dangerous areas. He's really like, he flaps his hands at things and doesn't really consider where the ball's going, you know. You have to be strong enough to be able to walk out and put your hands around the ball and catch it. You cannot, in the Prem, you cannot drop the ball. You cannot make those types of stops where you push it right into the center of the goal. So he's a good shot stopper. I haven't seen anything with his feet so far. He's supposed to be really good with the feet. He kind of seems a bit shaky on his legs. That's going to create shakiness at the back. If there isn't a clear, like a goalkeeper's got to be very loud and vocal and speaking to his centre backs. If he's not like that, that's going to be a problem. So even if you've got Romero and Van de Ven, who are very outspoken kind of leader type people, the guy behind him has to be even stronger. He's got to shout. He's got to tell them positionally where he has to be. Some of his positioning on crosses and stuff looks a little bit suspect at times. So look, it maybe just takes some time, but I'm looking at fundamentals that for me, if I look at a goalkeeper, he's getting wrong. So I'm not feeling great about him right now.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think the Kane money's gone anyway. I think we spent it on Vicario, Maddison, and Van de Ven, to be honest. And I think the rest of the next incomings are all relying on who we're going to get out the door in the remaining, knockings of the window. But HG, how would you like to see us navigate the rest of the window?
I definitely think a third centre back is essential. I really do. Like Davinson Sanchez came in, played really well. But I don't think he wants to be at Spurs long term himself, let alone that we want him to stay long term. So he's a fantastic option when we have the issues that we had on Sunday. But really, I want a third proper like an established centre back who has the more attributes that Andrew will want from his centre backs. So we've seen Van de Ven. Like it's weird that the comments that Tim Sherwood made about Van de Ven looking wooden on the ball. I can see that. If I'm honest, I can genuinely see that. But he's not there for what he can do and how good he looks on the ball. He's good for the fact that he's got the pace and he's got the height, and in a one-on-one situation, he will be difficult to get past. That's why he's there. So I think that a third centre back would be extremely useful. I don't necessarily feel like we need a fourth. I think that Phillips or Dorrington or like even Ben Davies at a push could be that fourth guy if we're desperate. But I think that a third centre back is definitely necessary. And then from then on, it's about finding players that can do the roles that And wants them to do. If that's a right winger, if that's the central striker, if that's the number 8, so that Skip isn't there, we can wait for Bentancur to get back from injury and for Brian Hill to get back from injury. But maybe we need another, say, a more mobile 8, like Pape Sarr's a good player, but again, I don't see him doing much different than what Skip did. I don't think there was much difference when he came on Sunday. Neither one of them seemed massively suited for a role that's quite creative and involves running beyond the striker, getting into the box. So there are decisions that we need to make based on kind of what we want going forward. And obviously, we might need some homegrown players too to fit that. But I think that's where I want the money to go. Like if I'm paying 30, like if we're assuming that 100 million is now available, then I'll pay the money for Orban. I'll pay 30, 40 million for another centre back. Weirdly enough, I always liked the other Wolfsburg centre back much more than Van der Ven. Lacroix. I've always liked Lacroix, but we needed a left footer, so it made sense to go to Van der Ven. But I just feel that that's kind of what we need to be doing. We need a proper 8, because like Lo Celso's good, but right now you could say he's 5th choice. Right, and he may not be at the club long term, may only stay until another season. Like we are trying to move the thing forward. Like it won't be about how good we are this year; it'll be about how good we are next year.
It always is. It always is, HG.
Yeah, but it has to be. I mean, like long term planning. Like I think we'll be good this year regardless. I genuinely do. But if we're buying people in, I don't necessarily need another Maddison character who's in the peak of his career and will play every game when fit. But I do think that, to me, Sarr is more a 6 than an 8. Right? I think Skip is more a 6 than an 8. But in this system, Skip's not a 6. Right? You don't want him receiving on the half turn from the centre-backs. So do I think Sarr is a better 8 than Skip? Yes, I do. But I don't think that's where they need to be going. We need to find a better passer, someone who offers some goal threat from those midfield. Because Maddison's not making those runs into the box. So someone has to be doing it. And yeah, like we're talking about a player that we don't have, the kind of player that we don't have. But that's where I would be thinking.
Do we have a player on the bench that maybe could do that role? Giovanni Lo Celso?
Look, I think Lo Celso is very similar to Maddison in the fact that he wants to create. Kulusevski wants to create. I don't think any of them really want to be on the end of things. Bentancur has shown a willingness to get into the box. He showed that last season. He could easily be that guy, but I think we need runners. Like the whole system is based around movement. Skip doesn't really want to. Sarr doesn't really want to. And they may have been, Sarr was a central midfielder in a 3 playing in French football, but it was a completely different style of system. So you've got to figure out what functions in what you want to do. But it's a shame that Skip is kind of around because he's homegrown, and we need those things. But if I'm looking to improve on what we have, then I think a better goal-scoring midfielder needs to come in.
You're talking about Hatate. That's really what you're talking about.
No, who he's talking about is Dele Alli. That's who he's talking about. 2017 Dele Alli.
I was hearing Alex Scott if he didn't go to Bournemouth. That was a big miss. Like
if Dele Alli can reinvigorate himself and have an okay season this year, at the end of his year, he's out of the contract. Would you take him back if he's looking more positive?
No.
I mean, he's not going to be that guy for Everton, right? I mean, that's he may not even play for Everton. Like we all want to see him get back to who he was. Of course we do. And as Spurs fans, we want to see him do that for Spurs. And perhaps this system would really suit him. There's no doubt in my mind it would suit the Dele from 4, 5, 6 seasons ago. Yeah. But it's a gamble. It would be a massive gamble.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that we have to kind of move on from that, sadly.
We need that kind of player, right? Arriving late in the box, that's able to score 15 goals a season. A Dele Alli type, should I say? Not Dele Alli himself, probably, but a Dele Alli type.
It just take it what kind of movement you want. Like, to me, I want a number 8 to make those late runs into the box. I mean, the goals that Skip scored at Barcelona were what we want an 8 to do. But I just feel that in those games against Barcelona, he had space to run into, right? So it was quite easy. Oh, the ball's over on the left. My job is to run into the box. I'm going to run into the box. And maybe he was surprised that the ball landed at his feet. I mean, I think we all were. But that's what you can do when you've got space to run into. In a system like when we're playing against Brentford or low blocks, there's no space to run into. You've got to find the space. You can't just run forward and get into a good area. You've got to be smart. And that's probably where I think we're missing.
Did you guys ever see Hatate, how he played for Celtic? Because everything that we're talking about is Hatate. Like he is like basically a shorter, but built and runs and moves and does everything the same as Basuma, but he's more attacking and he puts more balls through and he scores more worldies from outside the box. It's exactly that guy. Like, there's no one better. For the life of me, I don't understand Ange coming here, how he didn't just go, okay, get in the backpack Kyogo and get in the backpack Hatate. Let's go. Like, because they are exactly what we need. You know, it's crazy to me. It's like, go and get Hatate for 15 million. Kyogo obviously upped his deal and he's, you know, signed a new contract. Go and get him for 30 million. For me, it's absolute no-brainer stuff. It's almost frustrating that this most simple Occam's razor thing never gets done.
Well, there are the comment section are going mad. They're saying Rio Hatate, they're saying Eberechi Eze, and I've got another one in Mohamed Kudus as well, who could potentially be on West Ham right now. Like Mohamed Kudus, I think for the price they're talking about, 35 million. Like, why not go and gazump West Ham right now and go get him in?
I know. It was my mind.
If we talk, I mean, like, if Madison's going to cut in from the left and get those shots in the perfect Ange system, the ball comes from the right. Madison's coming in on his right foot, can pick a corner, right? He doesn't have to worry about it. Even in the first preseason game, the chances we had against West Ham, but the amount of times they fell in the box to someone on their wrong foot who wasn't willing to hit it first time and had to take a touch, and then the chance is gone. The defense is there, so you have to be willing to hit it first time. If Kulusevski can be that left-footed Madison on the other side,
I like that, by the way.
We don't need it.
I really like that. I like, because of the style of how Madison's setting up, and the way he, like, when he on the halfway line, how he drops the shoulder and turns, that's exactly what Kulu does on the byline. The two of them being able to do that and then, you know, kind of double pivot in a way, but both of them being able to hound that 45-degree angle out to the edge of the box. Yeah. Kulu, that's his cross, right? And he whips that curly cross so beautifully, but have him shooting to the far post, you're going to get goals like that. I love that idea. Yeah. You know, I don't know how strong it is then defensively, but because we play with inverted fullbacks, we have a 4 or 5 at the back that's strong. You know, so you allow them to play.
I feel it was the same when Kulusevski was good in those first 6 months. I always felt that he worked better with Doherty than he did with anyone else. Even though Emerson was playing, I thought him and Doherty, and the game at Leeds, I remember they both scored early on. But there was this idea that Kulusevski was quite happy to stay wide, and Doherty didn't want to go around the outside. Was quite happy to make those runs into the box. And I just feel that, like, if you've got, like, if we think Perisic has a future at Spurs playing as a left winger and doesn't have to worry about defending, and you've got Porro who can't defend, is good going forward, you could have Kulusevski as the 8 on that side with Porro outside him, and I think it would work. I really do. But it's like you've got to find players that will fit those roles. Like, maybe that means there's no future at the club for Skip. Maybe it means that Skip or Sarr or whoever else is left over can go out on loan. That's awful because we've got all these talented midfielders and they are all really, like Højbjerg. I mean, we all know he's probably going to go, but as an 8 in that system, he's not bad. He'd probably be better at it than Skip as far as I'm concerned. But we know that he's not, like, I think the reason why he didn't come on Sunday is because we know he wants to go. There's no point giving him minutes right now because he's probably going to be on his way out if we can organise fees and everything else. So it's just, like, if you've got an inverted 4, whether it's, you know, I mean, even if it's Davies, you've got Davies, Van der Ven, Romero, and Royal as your back 4. Davies will move in, Udogie can move in, but that 4 is set. Those 4 would be fine. I'd be happy to even have Spence be that inverted right fullback. I know it's not going to happen, but he has the characteristics that an Ange footballer would need. But then, to me at least, it's about how that front 5 figure out the spacings. If we've got wingers, like traditional wingers who just hold the line, then it will give more space for Madison and more space for Kulusevski or whoever, Lo Celso, to be that 8. But they have to have a decent shot. We know that Madison does. We haven't really seen it from Kulusevski too often, but it's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, in terms of how I would try, if it was a perfect window, in my opinion, what I'll try and do, I think I agree with the guys. Another centre-back has to be a priority. I think after Van der Ven and Romero, we are really struggling, like in a perfect system, as much as Sanchez has done well. In terms of who I'd get, I think Yeah, Pershaw's. I'd even look at Kilman again if we can get a good deal for him, but apparently Ange doesn't like him. So
Didn't he just sign a new contract?
He did.
Okay,
he did.
fine. So he's going to be more expensive now, so probably not.
Mudded already, Sam.
Yeah.
Guys, I think it's all about pace. Whoever we sign at centre back will have to have pace. Like, it's as crazy as it is. Like, if Davinson Sanchez looks like a decent defender in our system, and all he has is pace, that's what we need. Like, it'd be better. Obviously, we want someone who's better on the ball than Sanchez is. We want someone who doesn't give me heart attacks every time he tries to play a back pass. Because
someone who's not going to get elbowed off the ball by the wind. You know,
literally.
I think Tosin's the great centre back option. He's got pace, he's got ball playing ability. He's going to be cheap. 1 year left in his deal. I think he just ticks all the boxes, to be honest.
A no-brainer. Total no-brainer.
I think the price as well. Probably, he's probably the best fit. Although, if Sanchez goes to Monaco, maybe we can get Tosin. We'll have to wait and see. And I think up front, I'd go for Orban, and then I would sign a winger. I'll probably sign a Nico Williams or try our best to get Doku. Looks like he's off to City.
Nico Williams would be the best.
I think Nico Williams, who's got a release clause at Bilbao, I think someone like him on the right hand side, and then you got him competing with Kulu. Kulu could potentially go inside as an 8 as well. I think gives you really good options because to be honest, looking at our forward line without Harry Kane there, wingers and forwards included, I am a bit concerned. I'm just concerned we don't have enough quality. I'm sure we're going to be better than we were last season. I'm sure we're going to look better on the ball than we were last season. But I'm just comparing our options in the forward line compared to who we're trying to compete with, which is the rest of the top 6. And I just think we're falling short quality-wise. I really do. I don't see us stacking up against them right now, quality. And as much as the system will benefit these players 100%, and I'm sure we'll score goals, Man United have a possession-based system. City do. Arsenal do. Chelsea is starting to get that now. Everyone is starting to play good football, which is trying to get the best out of their forward players. At the end of the day, it's going to come to quality, and I don't think our quality is as good as them. So I think we need to up it, and I think that's why I'd concentrate getting a striker and a winger in the forward line. If I was instead of midfield, I'll just leave the midfield. If it meant improving the forward line, I'll leave the midfield as it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, the team that Liverpool played against Chelsea, like I couldn't believe the 6 players they had in their attacking areas because it was 6 attacking midfielders or strikers.
Yeah.
Like all of them could do everything, and perhaps they were lucky that it was 1-1. And there's a reason why Liverpool are looking for that holding midfielder. They want it, but Liverpool have a bunch of strikers that all of them I'd love at Spurs. Really. However, Man United, no. I don't really see all their strikers. I'm not clamoring for us to sign Anthony. Rashford seems to be the only one. Højlund is a gamble. Arsenal have strikers. I love Sancho. I think Sancho's a great player. I think Sancho could work in a Spurs system more than he does at Man United. But then I watched Sancho play for Dortmund, where they had that high press, and it was all about quick 1-2s round the corner. Sancho would work really well in this system, but I don't look at Chelsea's options, and I'm not wowed by it. I mean, yes, they're signing players and they're trying to build, but I think we're all capable of doing that. I think Liverpool have probably got the best set of strikers in the. I mean, even though City have Haaland and Alvarez, I think Liverpool have a bunch of attacking players who are really, really good, and they will struggle to fit. Oh, well, plus they have Darwin; he doesn't really count. But it's just, I think that the Spurs have decent attackers. We do, but we've got they'll all look better when they're playing in a role that actually suits them. I think that's really it to me.
When we move Porro there, because I think if we move Porro out to the right wing, I think he'll suit that system down to a T. I mean, the guy can get to the byline, cut it back, cross it in. He's got shooting ability as well. I think he's got it all to play that right winger system. I think he's probably the most suited to it out of Kulusevski, Son, and all the players that we've been talking about as well. So I can't wait for the day till we start to give him a try there, because I think it will be absolute miracle.
But a problem with what we're talking about as well is so you look at squads. What the big problem is happening even in that first weekend is you've got squads and you've got managements trying to put their systems across, and new players come in. Look at Manchester United. New players come in, all of a sudden it falls completely apart because you have too many attacking midfielders. You have no one tracking back. You have holes all over the place. You have a system that isn't getting over to the players because you've got egos now, right? probably predictable. You probably could have guessed that was going to happen with Mason Mount going in there. So with us and most teams, the problem is you've got a roster of players. You have players who can fit in different holes, but then you have a style of play, and it's about how do you get your style of play across whoever works. Sometimes it's not about like this name and this place and this person has this attributes. It's like, how does the style of play work? And for me, what I'm starting to see across the preseason and that first game is that we have a bit of a misunderstanding happening already with the style of play. We're getting into their half and trying to lock them into that D and play fast moving, pass the ball, keep the ball. Looks good. And the common thing that every Spurs fan is like, looks amazing, right? And it does look good. What you're actually doing when you play that high up and you do that passing work inside the triangles inside your opponent's half, you actually make it easier for them to defend. And that's all I saw in that game. As the game went on, it was getting easier and easier and easier. And then you add into the fact that you have kind of out of place people in the front line, people who are not in, how do you expect Richarlison to make space, play in the lines when the spaces are so close because you're coming so far up the pitch? You have to, what they have to do, Ange Ball's thing when it was at Celtic, a lot of the time they toyed with teams lower in the pitch. They played out from the back. Carter Vickers was actually brilliant at it. They played out, they played around, they drew people into the traps on the halfway line. Then bang, then they made switches, or they lost the ball a lot of the time. Sometimes, arguably it wasn't deliberate, but they almost looked even better when they lost the ball on the halfway line, because then they squashed, bang, closed down, and they put players through, and then there was goals that came from it. And you always had defenses with only two players back and someone on the byline putting it back, and defenses were dead. So what we're doing is we're getting it kind of all wrong for me in the system that he wants to play. We're just pushing all like far too far out the field, going, let's hold him here, let's play fancy touch fast football. And it's like, okay, cool, do that all day long. You're not scoring a goal here. Like, you're not scoring a goal here unless someone picks the ball up and magically you get Emerson Royale scoring from where you're only going to score goals from now. You're only going to score goals from deep now. You're only going to score goals from like outside the box, because that's the only option you're creating. And it's going to be lucky goals. So you can't play that far up if you're going to play like that. You have to play a little bit deeper, just on your halfway line, draw them in, maybe in your own half, and then get in behind. So for me, there's problems with not just the players not being in, not fully getting the system or not being in confident mode. It's a problem with just not really fully understanding where you have to play that style of play.
Yeah, I completely get that, like trying to play a bit deeper, draw the opponents out and create more space for us. But in terms of the Brentford game, there were so many opportunities where Sonny and Kulusevski were there right on the edge of the box, where they had the opportunities to shoot, that it opened up for them at times, where we know Sonny and Kulusevski have those qualities where they can find the back of the net quite regularly from those areas of the pitch. But we just went for that extra pass every single time. It was like we were trying to just pass it into the back of the net. And sometimes we just need to have a pop shot, especially when you have players like Heung-min Son. Utilize it, man. Like, when you're in those areas, have a shot on goal. I don't understand why we didn't do that.
Lack of confidence. It's a classic lack of confidence. Like, Sonny, like to get the ball, it's like first thought should be, I want a goal. As a striker, you hate it if you're a midfielder anywhere else, like, because you want the pass back. But a striker's brain is, I want to go, I want to score, I want to be the man, I must win the game right now. That's how you have to think as a striker. And you can't tell me anyone in that attack thinks like that. Maybe Madison, but like, I don't think any of them think like that. And that's what you see has been dripped and drained and squeezed out of Son's game. It's like, now he's just like, oh, pass the ball. You know, sad to see.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. Regarding the Kane sale again, obviously, massive player in Harry Kane leaving Tottenham Hotspur. Do Spurs need to make a marquee signing from now until the end of the window to really caveat that Kane move? Or do you reckon maybe Ange doesn't even need a marquee signing and he can work with, I don't even know what a marquee signing means these days anymore, to be honest. But the question is, do Spurs need a marquee signing, HG?
In my opinion, no. But I suspect I'm the only one who feels that way. Like a marquee signing is just someone that lots of fans have heard of, right? None of us really knew who Vicario was.
And costs a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but costs a lot of money. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, right? Like, we've signed Vicario, who most people had never heard of. We've signed Villiers, who almost no one had heard of, really. Van der Ven, how many people have been watching?
His own mother doesn't even know him.
Yeah, we are signing players that aren't like Madison is the marquee signing this year, and of course you'd love to add him into a team that already has Harry Kane, right? That's the idea. You get someone in who's going to improve things. He's our marquee signing. I'm still amazed we got him. Genuinely amazed that Madison chose to join Spurs, but. No, if we get a centre back that people have heard of and it makes them feel better about things, then great. Let's do that. But I'd rather have the right centre half. That to me is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, you would have said last season. What last season was Richarlison a marquee signing? Does that fall under the category of marquee signing? Like who are we linked with this year that could be a marquee signing? Is Eze a marquee signing?
I would say he probably is.
Eze is a marquee signing, yeah.
Yeah, I would say he probably is. If we were linked with Lautaro Martinez yesterday, if we would somehow pull that off, that would be like a marquee signing, I guess. I wouldn't say, I would agree. I wouldn't say we need one, but I do think, though, there is kind of the fact that we sold Kane. I know there is still a lot of positivity around going into the season. I'm very positive about Ange and going to the season, but Kane has gone, and there is a bit of a void in terms of star quality in the squad. Now that can be overcome with younger players with high potential that Ange can get the best out of, and as fans, we know that. But I do also think if things were to start going wrong, like this season, like quickly, like the board is going to come under a lot of pressure if we don't make, if we don't, I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying if we don't make a big signing, we don't really utilize that Kane money for like a big player. And I think that the board are going to come under a lot of pressure for selling Kane and basically not replacing him if things start to go wrong at some point.
Yeah,
whereas if they spend like 100 million on Martinez, they can say, look, we bought Martinez for 100 million. Like, what more can we do? But like, basically. But I don't think we need to.
What's the last marquee signing we've actually made that's paid off? Like, was it Klinsmann or something? Like, who's the last marquee signing that we've made that's actually done well for us? Like, as much as we expected?
Never, probably.
I don't know, man. I look at it. I think Van de Ven's a marquee signing as well. I wanted him. Liverpool wanted him for ages. Like, he's a brilliant player. He's probably going to be our captain in maybe 2 seasons' time. Like, I think he'll really turn into a marquee signing. But as in what you're talking about, and what actually really does affect big clubs. I'd say Bissouma's a marquee signing as well. I said it biz by mistake there. I meant business. But what does affect big teams is, from a brand point of view and from like selling shirts, from a business point of view, from getting people to watch, tune in. Obviously, Son's our biggest player. He's probably one of the biggest players on the planet. So the right thing might have been, if you were going to sell Kane, is to have this brand packaging backup plan where you just go and get a Vlahovic or you get a Tony, because they're big names, and then you make them even bigger, right? Like there could be. So I'm surprised that our club doesn't like think marketing wise. We just concentrating on these stupid outer like business plans, but don't really think about actually like the business of football, like young kids getting into Spurs because of Harry Kane or like Lineker. You know, like you need names, you need people to come and want to watch football, right? So I think the other problem you have is that we're in a situation where we're trying to get rid of all these players. We can't for the life of us get rid of the trash we don't want. But so to try and get more players in, strangely, we're going to now try push out Lo Celso, who's a great player. We're going to push out Højbjerg, which is a great player. We're kind of pushing out the door of potential marquee type players. Like, our Spurs don't like Lo Celso, but the rest of the world thinks he's one of the world's best players. Like, we just hate him for some reason. I've never seen him play that bad, but for some reason, Spurs fans hate him. I think
it's all about that corner at Everton. That's why everyone hates him.
I genuinely think he's incredible. I would have been starting him with Madison, Lo Celso, and Bissouma every game. I don't know why you wouldn't want to score more goals. Don't know why you wouldn't want to use someone like that. But we're going to get rid of him. We're going to get rid of Højbjerg, and we're going to be left with, Madison's going to play every game. Surely going to get injured. No one to cover him. You're going to have Skip, Sarr, and Bissouma, because until Benton comes back, so look at our midfield. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, like, if you're going to get rid of Højbjerg and Lo Celso, you better bring in someone who's really good and someone who's who's used to the pressure. So you kind of have to, you're forced a little bit to go for a marquee centre back. That's why you should have got a Kessie. That's why you should have been looking at a Locatelli and all these other players who were like strong, who could kind of do a bit of work. If you're going to get rid of Lo Celso, then you should be looking at someone you should have went and got Scott. Scott was someone you could have built as a big brand over the years. He's a Spurs boy. Like, you would have sold so many shirts straight off the bat. Give him the shirt he wants and just let him come in and be the next Dele, you know. So I see it as I wouldn't say like we need a mark. We don't like Ange. I do have, this is where like it's more like the positive side of it is I do have faith in Ange. Like I do. He is a football brain, you know. He's got this sorted, right? So like the window could close, and I do think he's got what he needs to have a decent season. But as in like, like the games I'm looking at that I want to go to, like bring family members to, like the things I want to talk about, is there stuff that really attracts me to look forward to going and seeing how we're going to attack and play up front? I don't think we have the striker. I don't think we have really, if one or two injuries, I think we're dead at the back. We're already dead at the back. How crazy is this? We're dead at the back. We've got one game in, and it's going to be Van de Ven and Sanchez. Like, it's kind of crazy. I think we needed to do more in the window. Marquee or not, it's just, you know, just go in and
Is
get.
Romero definitely out for United?
I think
Not
he is.
definitely, but probably
Not definitely.
I
I thought it was.
definitely.
Isn't there some? I mean, again, I don't know this. Isn't there some idea that because we filled out the wrong form, it therefore doesn't count as a concussion, and so it actually helps us? If he'd been concussed and subbed as a concussed, then he may have to miss the next game. But because officially it wasn't a concussion, we can play him if we want to. Like, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs. I think it would be surprising if he doesn't play. I suspect he will play. And I think everyone will just forget about the whole concussion thing. It will be like, he's fit, we go.
Is it confirmed that he was concussed, though?
No, I mean, the only way they can confirm it is if the doctor comes out and says it, or we make it a concussion sub. Then it's somehow official. If that concussion sub didn't happen, then it's up to Spurs now. And it's up to Spurs. If they want to announce that he's concussed and he can't play, then that will be our decision. And maybe Ange will do that. Maybe he will be honest about it. But
I think he will.
Yeah, I think Romero will play. Whether it was decided as a concussion or whatever, I do think Romero will play.
I think that Ange will follow the protocols 100% on this one. I don't think managers want to take any risks on these kind of things anymore, to be honest. And I think if it came back that showed he was concussed, then I don't think he plays, to be honest. I really don't. And I think Ange will follow the exact protocols it is to see if he plays or not. But look, let's move on to the final topic of the panel, and it is regarding your mate Davinson Sanchez. Brains, does he deserve another chance?
No. I mean, look, it's like it's not like I just don't. I get scared when players who don't have the sustainability in them to go through like a full campaigns that are ups and downs. Yes, it's cool to see someone have a little bit of a resurgence and play for their life because they know that they're kind of edging towards the edge of their career and they need to get a big deal, so they play better. It's shop window performances. But then it's like, it's just as soon as one bad thing happens with Sanchez and his head goes, and then it's just downhill from there. And if a further injury happens and you have to rely on that, it's the same with Dyer. Dyer can put in 3 or 4 really good performances, and you start thinking, this guy he's got loads of attributes. He could be a great defender. Oh my God, why can't he defend? Like, that's what happens. It's like he just goes to sleep and then he just lets someone in behind and he's like, oh, I don't know what happened there. You know, so I don't want to see Dyer or Sanchez in our back line ever again. And that's not to, I genuinely do really respect that he's had these good performances, and I hope he gets a good deal for it. There's nothing negative on the player. It's just we need to be serious as a football team. Like, we should have been serious at the start of this window. We should have got 3 or 4 defenders in at the start of the window. We got Phillips, fantastic. I'd almost rather see Phillips at the back with Van de Ven. If we're going to risk Sanchez, you know, because he could have a good game, it could have one of those games where he gets blown over by the wind. Like, there's a huge chance of that. So I don't want to see us give Sanchez another chance.
Yeah, but Brains, when you're looking at the centre-back options, obviously you got Van de Ven and Romero, who nobody comes close to in our squad right now. But apart from that, you got Sanchez, Tanganga, Eric Dyer, and Ashley Phillips. Ashley Phillips, probably too young, not ready. The other three, we're all looking to move on, right? And out of those three, do you not think Sanchez is the most, adequate to play the system that we want?
Yeah, no, like if you've got no other players and Romero isn't playing, yeah, like we're stuck right now to have to play him. But I'd rather us do a deal right now for him, get him out, and then just bring Tosin in immediately. Just go and get Tosin straight after that deal. Like do it on the same day. Like I would do that. If he's here and Romero can't play, yeah, sure, he's the first alternate, but I wouldn't want to give him a chance. I wouldn't want to go the whole season when the window closes with Dyer or Sanchez as our first alternates.
I mean, in my opinion, I think you need to get Dyer and Tanganga out the door before you get Sanchez out the door. And I agree that Sanchez does need to leave at some point, but I can't see us bringing two more centre-backs in from now until the end of the window. So if we were going to go into the season with Van de Ven, Romero, a new centre-back and Sanchez, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. But the thing is, there's deals that look like they're ready to go for Sanchez, not for Dyer and not for Tanganga.
Exactly, that's the problem.
So that's the problem. It's like, so you got to sell the ones who are ready to go, because if selling him right now gives us unlocks the kind of open the door, walk through, get a new defender, then
I would rather risk the Sanchez sale and not getting any money from this summer than play Eric Dyer and Tanganga as backups. I really would.
Yeah, of course. But I'm considering that we're definitely trying to get Dyer and Tanganga out anyway.
I think all three are going. Include Sanchez in that. Like you are right in saying that. Yeah. Yeah, like I think you are right in saying that Sanchez is the best of those to stay if you need him to stay.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking, like, if we're going to be playing one game a week most of the way through the season, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we could have the world's worst injury crisis, and maybe if Sanchez ends up being fourth choice. But as Brain said, I'd rather see Phillips have those minutes. If those things are to happen, I want Phillips to be the fourth choice. Like, we obviously think there's something there. We think, like, logically, you'd be saying, okay, spend the season at Blackburn, play more often, all the rest of it. Well, Ange doesn't seem to be even contemplating that. Like, he's training with the first team. I think he was on the bench on Sunday. I might be wrong, but I think he was. So to me, he's the fourth. What we're looking to do is improve the third, because right now Sanchez is the third choice. Sanchez will go. He's been at Spurs a long time. As far as I'm aware, he's had 2 runs as being like a major part of the defence. He played with Vertonghen when Alderweireld got injured, and he played with Dyer. Outside of that, he's been squad player the whole time. I want him to go and play in Spain and spend the rest of his career there. I think that that's the best thing for him. I think it's the best thing for Spurs. So I don't think we need to sign 2 more. I think we need to sign 1 more. What we're trying to do is improve on the option of Sanchez. Because to me, you've got Romero and Van de Ven will be our first choice if they're fit. You sign a third one to cover both if needed, and the fourth choice can be a youngster. And maybe by the time November comes around, we've got 2 suspended and 1 injured, and we're playing Dorrington and Phillips again in a massive game. But I take those. I'll take those chances.
I'd like to see that. I'd actually like to see Dorrington and Phillips. Who knows that they could be the next, massive talents.
Like it's weird. Like, I know that Spence is on the way out, but I think Spence would offer more to this system. Like, you could have Emerson Royal be your centre back if you really needed it. I'd rather see him there than just keep Sanchez around. Like, this idea of one last chance. Like, it's sad that we're now playing a system that suits what he can do, but it's time for him to go. Like, he needs to do it for himself. He spent 6 years at Spurs now, 5 years at Spurs. He's never really been first choice, apart from that one time with Sanchez, with Dyer. When the 2 of them in that Jose team, when we played 8 defenders, that's worked for him. But now, no. Like, it's just, we have to think forward. We have to think that, Dorrington at some point could be one of those guys. Charlie Sayers at some point could be one of those guys. Charlie Sayers is older than Ashley Phillips. So, like, at some point, like, we've got youngsters in that position who I would much rather give those minutes to. if we lose 2 or 3 players to injury.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, for me, I understand the argument to say he's probably the best centre back out of the unwanted ones to play the system. But as Brain said, we're potentially getting offers for Sanchez. We're not really getting offers at the moment for people like Dyer. So I would rather, if we get the offer, just sell and try and bring another one in and risk that rather than keep him because he's more suited than Dyer and try and get Dyer out the door. We're not getting offers for him, and then that risks keeping both of them. And I just don't want that to be the case whatsoever. So if we get an offer for him, we have to get rid of it. I think we have to sell.
Yeah, like I think what will happen with Dyer, regardless of what happens with Sanchez, what will happen with Dyer is this. It'll get to September 1st, and we'll name our 25-man squad, and he's not in it, and he'll go on a free. And he'll be able to join whatever club he wants.
I reckon we would do that.
Well, like,
why not? With 1 year left, then why not?
Yeah, like we could pay him to sit around and do social media, but to me, like if he's not going to be in the 25-man squad in the first half of the season, he's definitely not going to be in the second half of the season. So yeah, like it would be lovely if teams will offer us, chump change, but I suspect they won't. So what Spurs have the option of paying for him to not play for Spurs, or pay him off and he can play where he wants. Now, that in theory, that could hurt Spurs later on if he joins a team in the Premier League and then plays against Tottenham when he didn't need to. But I think Dyer would go abroad anyway.
That would help us.
Yeah, he'll probably just take a year out of football anyway and just concentrate on his new app that he's trying to promote, Spotless or whatever it is.
If I'm Eric Dyer, English football is done. Like you could go to Everton and probably play there and connect with Delhi again, and the bromance would be alive. I think Everton is probably the type of team that might suit his defensive skills, whatever they may be. But if I'm Eric Dyer, I'm 29, I speak Portuguese, I probably speak Spanish, I probably understand French and Italian. Like I can go wherever I want, and like it sucks that Spurs would consider that, but we're doing the same thing to Lloris. Like at some point, it's like, yeah. Thanks for your service. Off you go, lads. Like, we tried to get money for you. Logically and smartly, other teams weren't playing ball. But if they're not in the 25-man squad, it's in their interests to go. And so we just have to, if it means Spurs end up paying the whole of his contract, which is probably what will happen, then okay. Those are the costs. Like, Arsenal did it, sadly, with Aubameyang and others and Ozil, and they were paying much more in money than Dyer is earning. We just have to be thinking about the future. Do
you think there'll be other players on that list as well that we might cancel their contract or decide to part ways with them if we can't sell them?
I mean, anyone who with a year left. I mean, even Sanchez. Even if they're like, again, if I'm a foreign club looking at Sanchez, I'm biding my time. Like I'm not going to do anything until August the 31st, if I'm going to do anything at all, because I might think, like in my head, I think. Ange has probably got a squad in mind right now that are definitely going to stay. And there may be 13, 14 foreigners on that list. And you imagine that Bentancur and Brian, or the new centre-back that comes in to replace Sanchez, they're another couple of foreigners. And that doesn't include Højbjerg, and it doesn't include other foreign players. We're going to have a number, Reguilon, we're going to have a number of players that they won't be named in our 25-man squad. And so it's logical that the ones who only have a year left will be the ones to go. I think it does make sense to just let them go. They are not our future.
I agree.
Totally agree.
I didn't even consider the possibility of letting Dyer go on of Dyer being here and not being in the squad. I didn't think that. I just didn't think it would get to that point because there's all the noise at the moment. As much as apparently Tottenham have been tentatively listing for offers for Dyer, it seems all the noise of Dyer saying he wants to stay and fight for his place and all this. There's been no massive indication that he's being forced out of Tottenham right now, as much as all the fans want him gone, that's for sure. There's been no messaging from Tottenham that like they're desperate to get rid of him right now.
He wasn't even in the squad on the weekend.
He wasn't in the squad. That's the thing. They have to have form from it though. They let go of Doherty on a free in January, didn't they? So it wouldn't be something that's completely new to them.
And we heard it, didn't we?
Do it to Dyer.
We heard it at the beginning of the window. Paul O'Keefe said, in the next couple of weeks, Spurs are going to start cancelling some contracts. And I always felt like that. I think like you got to wait until you can maybe get some money in, and then maybe at the end of the window, if you can't sell them, then you start cancelling the contract. So I think we're at that time now, aren't we?
like if there is a spot on August the 31st where we've got everyone that we can bring in, and we say, you know what, Dyer, spot number 17, we'll keep you around over some of the others, then I think Dyer will take it. We'll name him if we have space for him and he doesn't want to go. But if we don't have space for him, if there are 17 other players that we'd rather have around, maybe we would rather keep Reguilon around than Dyer. I mean, I'd rather have Reguilon in the squad than Dyer. So it's if he can't play for Spurs, then what's he going to do? And as a footballer, which he is first and foremost, he'll want to go and get some minutes somewhere. He won't just want to sit around for 3 or 4 months. Like maybe one of the leagues has a later closing point than we do, because that usually happens. Like Turkey tends to finish a day or two later. Maybe that will become an option for him. But I suspect, like if I'm Dyer, pay me off, right? I'll go. I'd love to be able to choose where I can go, and I think just for Spurs it would make sense.
HG, do you think the fact he wasn't chosen as one of the captains, do you reckon that would have affected him?
Like, I know this hasn't been announced, but my personal feeling is that like he knows, and Ange has probably already told him, you are not part of my plans. Like we see these list of players that have apparently been transfer listed, and it's Spence and it's Reguilon and Højbjerg. I mean, Højbjerg's not been transfer listed, but the players will know where they are in the pecking order. And I think Dyer probably knows where he is. He's no idiot. Yeah. So the question is, well, Levy will probably want to negotiate this and say, hey, look, if you want to go and play where you want, then I'm not going to give you all of your contract. I hate that fact that that's what he'll do, but that is what he'll do. We know that about Levy by now. But to me, after being at the club for 9 years, it's the same with Lloris. We could be wanting 1 or 2 million from Lazio or whoever to release him, or we could just say, you know what, stay at Spurs and do nothing, like work in the allotment, whatever it is you're going to do. But no, we're going to let Lloris go, we'll let Dyer go. Like if Sanchez is in that position, we'll probably let Sanchez go too. And maybe that's 10 million quid that we've wasted, but we're paying him regardless. So if they decide to go abroad, that helps Spurs. Like, as much as I want to make the joke that Rich Brains did about Dyer playing against Spurs will help Spurs, I want to see them go and play. I do. Like I have nothing against any of our players. I want them to go and do what they can do somewhere else. Yeah.
Look, I think it's a good point and a nice ending to the panel today. So, HG, thank you so much for coming on today. Actually, just before we go to the exits, do you want to go through the super chats just before we finish?
Yeah, we've got a few super chats here. First of all, from Paul Cowdery, who says, need a decent backup centre-back who can play both sides. Hatate from Celtic for 20 million, who can play the 6 or the 8. All bound for 30 million. Keep Perisic and Lo Celso. We're cooking.
Is that Brains McLeod with the super chat?
Brains. Super chat.
That guy's clever though. I agree.
Yeah, not bad. Nick Collison, Barry, Ranjit, whatever you want to call him.
Next.
He says, put Emma Goat Royale up top, scoring more than Rishi. Sorry, Ben. I know you love Rishi. Big up, lads. Loving the show.
I don't particularly love Rishi. I would just like to see him given a chance. That's all.
Yeah.
That's too much to ask for. Mick Dundee says Ange has turned players' careers around wherever he goes and gets the best out of them, especially players who the supporters have been baying for their blood, i.e. Sanchez. In Ange, we trust.
Yeah.
Maybe he can turn Dyer around.
No.
It's crazy. Exactly. I think we all trust Ange. Right, yeah. We're all excited that we think we've got an adult in charge again, right? And we spent the first 20, 30 minutes saying, "Hey, why isn't he not playing wingers down the wing? What is this guy?" Like, it's so obvious that we can see it, and that feels like we don't trust him. We do, we absolutely do, but it's awkward. Like, because to me, I feel like the things that were bad about the performance on Sunday, that we didn't create too much, could have been changed with substitutes, and they weren't. That was the frustrating bit. So I don't want to go over it again, but we do trust Ange completely. It's just I want to see us having 25 shots instead of 20. I want to see us peppering the goalkeeper, because I don't feel we did that against Brentford. We have to be better at doing what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and also we need to be very patient as a fan base here, because everything is brand new. You know, a life without Harry Kane, a brand new manager in a brand new system.
Yeah.
We need to give it time, and if we don't see things working, Ange will fix those things. We need to give him the chance to fix those things.
You know, I almost saw like that game. There was an error just with the not bringing on subs, and you know, like he normally gets to 60 minutes and he's pretty brutal. And he brings on because he wants to keep the beat up. He wants to keep it not missing a beat. But I almost kind of saw that game like it was an actual more competitive preseason game. The way he looked at it, it was like, because do you know what I mean? He's like his whole thing was, I need players to get more minutes in them. So he did that. He did deliberately. He's not going to take VDV off. He needs him to get more minutes in. He needs him to fit the system. So he because he didn't have enough games, he had to use that a bit like he's like, no, I have to give the Richie time to just embed in. I have to give him more time. We didn't get the preseason. So as much as we're kind of seeing some things, and then you're kind of like armchairing there, like, oh, why isn't he doing this? That's just natural as a fan. But you kind of do know that, you know, he's going to get all this stuff. He's going to figure it all out. It's just early days, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
David Shire says, well said, Mick Dundee. So following on for the last super chat we just read out. And Michael Hellman says, clearing all the deadwood is the equivalent of a marquee signing.
That's spot on, in my opinion. That is spot on. I mean, if you clear out all the deadwood that we can this summer, then that automatically takes the levels of the summer business up a notch massively. Because we've been trying to clear out this deadwood for years now, and we haven't been able to. But what we've got on our side is the majority of the deadwood now are going into their final 1 year and 2 years of their contract. So not long to go, people. Not long to go. All right, that is an end to the super chats. Big up to the panel today, Brains and HG. Brains, tell the people where they can find you, if they can find you.
Well, obviously, I've got like Brains McLeod stuff all over the internet, at Brains McLeod on Spotify and stuff, if you like some music. But if you want to watch me play football, then our team started to put our games up on YouTube. So that's YouTube.com/DeadlyVenomsFC. So if you subscribe to that, we're going to go live after a little bit. So we'll start streaming our games live. At the moment, we're just, all the games we play, our league games and tournament games, we're just going to start putting them up. So you can watch every week. Friday night, we'll upload. Yeah, just get on board for the journey. We're also going through a rebuild and a different style of play. So it's kind of mimicking Spurs' journey right now. So
where do you play in that team, Brains?
I was always a cam before, but then we changed the style of play, and I just went up front and adapted and was top scorer 3 seasons in a row. But we're all falling apart, so now we're changing the style of play. And so I'm going back to be a cam.
Will you fit the system, or are you going to be hounded out?
Better. I'm right in the system.
HG from the Cheese Room podcast. Tell the people what's coming up on your channel this week and next week.
Well, so obviously, we usually have shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday on YouTube. There are podcasts certainly after every game this season. We might have a few midweek ones. So I think we've got a special one this week about the march that's taking place on Saturday. But YouTube is where I am usually. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday night, 9 o'clock UK time. We always talk about previews, reviews, anything that people want to talk about. We talk about Spurs, but that's when we're on.
All right, big up
in the chat as well.
Yeah, big up to you guys. Everyone do go and subscribe to the Cheese Room podcast. Absolutely brilliant Spurs content. But that draws an end to the panel show for today. We'll see you very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.